Hello, everyone. Welcome to join us. This is Dr. Z. Welcome to come to our conversation about technology, about AI in education. So here again, here we are again, and we have Dr. M here with us today. Dr. M, do you want to say hi to everyone?
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. So in our previous episode, we talked about the trend of technology and AI in education, specifically how can we use technology or AI, when in our interaction with children, right, in a developmentally appropriate way. We also talk about different subscale, what algorithm looks like. It's a scary word, but in terms of working with children and linking to our daily life, is everywhere, right? It's really common. Actually, very practical for teachers to explain algorithm and for children to experience it. But today I have some question, related to technology use. Especially, I want to know, like Dr. M's perspective on that. Is the connection between technology use and the social values or social norms that we are experiencing right now. I think one thing um, I personally notice when I'm going out to collect research data is that um, unlike before, unlike 5 years ago, when I went out to collect research data in childcare center, parents really motivated to participate. You're welcome to play the assessment game with my children. I'm eager to learn more about it. But right now, when I went to the field and collect research data, parents seem to have some new concerns. Whether my data, what kind of data you're going to collect about my children, uh, whether the data will be, securely stored. Are you going to, use my data or my children's data for commercial, for commercial use or for benefits, So I kind of see this new trend of people become increasingly aware what kind of data we are generating and we are sharing and we are using. So related to that is, when we use technology in classrooms, is there some kind of ethics related practice that teachers have to pay attention to?
Absolutely. And to me, a computing tool is just like any other tool that we use in the classroom. We have to bring our own humanity to it and our own sense of ethics and understanding of what the pitfalls of
Mhm.
the technology are when we're using these tools in the classroom. And I love that you bring up the data aspect of it because, like, how data has been collected has rapidly changed over 10 years.
Mm,
And there's sort of like there's two extreme views of it that, no one really holds, but the extreme view is that absolutely no data about me can be collected, which,
mhm,
is an extreme view because, it's not necessarily harmful for people to have information about you. Their purpose
mhm,
is usually to better understand who you are, better understand what you want, and therefore better serve you.
mhm,
That's their goal. Of
mhm.
course, they're usually trying to sell you something because
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, it's kind
And
of, and it's something can be really scary. The other day I was talking with my wife. We just say like, we just had this steak I bought from Kroger. The steak does not taste as, good. And then immediately our cell phone, when we open the Facebook, they're like, do you want to try local farm steak? I was like, what's happening? And I sometimes feel like even if I talk with my wife in Chinese, like instead of saying steak in English, we're saying steak in Chinese. It can still recognize us and still recognize, what kind of product we need. So it's kind of scary to that sense. But I can see like data sometimes can be used if in an ethical way, a very, informative source for decision making and planning.
yeah, well, especially like at Georgia State, we have a lot of student data around student success. And so we have
Mhm.
a lot of these models that we can sort of predict whether students are on track to succeed or on track to fail. And so we can make interventions. So a lot of times there is a really good like reason behind collecting that data, and it comes from a really
Mhm.
good place. But
Mhm.
I'm glad you brought up the instance of the steak. I think we've all had that example where we're talking
Yeah.
about something that is like I was talking with a friend about Taco Bell that I like nothing against Taco Bell, but I like never eat Taco Bell. Like I've never
Mhm.
seen an ad for Taco Bell on my phone, anything like that. And the one time I mentioned Taco Bell with a friend, suddenly it's like Taco Bell ads all the time. And I'm like, why
Uh-huh.
are you listening to me? I didn't ask you to listen to
Yeah.
me.
And
Um,
I don't want to say sugarcoat, but sometimes they present you the positive results of misusing your data. For example, like Google Map will automatically generate your your route, like your daily route, like your monthly route. They kind of show you like based on the location you share on your cell phone, or like when you use a Google Map in this particular month, where have you been? And then they connect all of those location points and create the best route for you. On one hand, it seems like really personalized, individualized, but on the other hand, I was like, well, I didn't remember when I went to the ice cream just for a secret visit. And then you also captured that and showed that on my map. So I think related to that in the educational setting, I think do you think it's really important for teachers when they introduce technology to children also talk about those ethical use of technology?
Yeah, and privacy is a huge concern when we're talking
Mhm.
about ethics, because that sort of that other spectrum of the that other end of that spectrum I was talking about is the people who say, well, you can collect whatever data you want about me because no one could
Mm,
possibly understand all of this data. Like there's just too much, no one can possibly process it. And my response to those people is you don't need people to process it. Computers are processing it and they're making these automated decisions sort of for you, like your Netflix
yes.
algorithm or your social media algorithm is sort of making these decisions about what you see. And the
Mhm.
privacy is really the key component there because
Mhm.
computers don't care what you're watching on Netflix or that you made a secret stop at an ice cream shop.
Mhm.
But when people get access to that data, then they can use it, and who knows 5 years from now, maybe you're running for office or something like that.
Mhm.
And like there's some things that you thought were private that weren't. And so that's a
Mhm.
really big issue, especially in education, is what is privacy, especially when we're talking about like student assessment,
Mm.
all sorts of things that might carry forward. And one of the most concerning things that I think is a reason that we need to be talking about ethics and privacy around technology in education really early on is that students are putting things on the internet that they think are
Yes.
private and
Yeah.
that can be deleted later and they can't really. And so they're creating this
Right.
digital footprint that is
Yeah.
unavoidable
Mhm.
5 years down the road when they might be a completely different person.
Yes, yes, exactly. I think that's a two-way issue. It's kind of like, when we uh explain to children, like when you go to the playground, you don't want to, talk to strangers, to protect your own safety. Or those are adults, your parent, your dad, your mom, your uncle, your aunt, those are the people, those are the adults when you need help, and your teacher, when you need help, go find help from them, not the people that you don't understand or don't know, right? So that's a way to have the safety protecting yourself. At the same time, you also need to protect other people's space, right? So if you want to share a bike or you want to ride a bike, somebody else is using that, you should go and ask whether you can play together, right? You should have this kind of personal conversation to exchange idea and also to receive permission in an ethical way before you actually do something, right? And I think that's pretty similar to what you just said. Is when we have to really think about the space we're using our data, we're sharing our data to whom or who is using our data for what purpose, right? Before we decide or whether I should share or not. And at the same time is when we are in online, we're in the public space online, like virtual space, virtual public space. I love that term. Is we also have to respect other people's boundary, right? If we decide to use some content from video, because I noticed, have you noticed, like if you go to TikTok or go to YouTube, the short video, sometimes the same short video because it's so popular, it got stolen by several people, and they set up account, post the exact same content multiple times, so they can also get a share from the same content. I think that may touch on this copyright thing, but also the first thing in my mind was that it's not ethical, right? Like if you're a good person, you should respect other people's property, and intellectual property is one of them. So even if you think, right, this joke is funny, I need to create another joke, right? Another content. Respect that I'm not using or abuse other data created by other people.
Yeah.
So in your mind, when is the best time to introduce those ethical behavior to children?
I think, as soon as students start using technology, especially if it's online enabled, that
Mm,
you should be having those conversations.
mhm,
Not just that it's a virtual and public space, like you said, but that it's a
mhm,
timeless space. So,
mhm,
if you're copying something from someone and posting it,
mm.
this technology doesn't exist right now, but it's feasible that 5 years down the road, there's an AI that takes all of the content about you online and says,
Yeah.
this person copies other people, or this
Mhm.
person, based on their photos, seems to act irresponsibly. Like, you don't know what that sort of technology is going to be available in the future, or what like companies, especially if they're looking at hiring someone, might be using in the future. And so it's
Yes.
really important to think about the timelessness of that digital footprint as well.
Hmm. I think about one thing is, when we use iPad or technology, um, I think parents should set up separate account for their children. Do you think so? Like not only for, I don't know whether that's a good management skill, but I feel like that's also a way to explain to children, saying like, this is your personal space, right? This account belongs to you and you manage it. You have power to control it. At the same time, you have responsibility to maintain it in an ethical way.
Absolutely. Well, and
Yeah.
especially developmentally, like it's really hard for a 5-year-old to understand
Hmm.
that
Like if you
20
verbally
years
explain
in,
everything, yeah.
yeah, like
Um,
what does 20 years in the future look like? They've only been alive for
mhm.
5 years.
Yeah, but I don't see that, like technically children have trouble of switching account because I think I can, like it's amazing, like especially if you go to a restaurant and when couple come in with a young child, the way they stop the child, moving around is to give them the iPad, right? And then I can see children, very skillfully can navigate different apps, exit apps, open the app, and open the account, attached to the app. It's very interesting to observe and see the capacity of children have reached to. Definitely, like for us, I remember like, do you remember OICQ? It's a long time ago, early 2000s. Oh my God, I'm so old. So back then, I was like instant message system. AOL was something similar to that. It's like you sign up and then they give you a number as an ID number and you create your own passwords. Okay. It was so new to me, and the concept of account was a new thing for me. Because we didn't have the understanding about online account. Like if you have a home and you have a water bill, power bill, and that's the account number, right? But the online account does not ring a bell for me because it was a new thing. So I thought whenever I open the program LOL Messenger, I need to sign up. Like each time I open the program, I need to sign up. And then each time I open the programs, I always have to add a new friend so I can start chatting. So I've been chatting with so many strangers, only once, like only for one time, like I was like, whoa. And now when I thought about I don't remember. Yeah, probably after using the software for 6 months, and suddenly somebody said, add my number. I said, what number? Add my account number. And then, oh, so I can actually keep you. Now it seems like it was assumed that everybody understand what is account is, right? And everybody should understand like what is the secure password looks like. You always have to have a uppercase, all of that. So the concept like account, some concept like passwords or search engine, and what do those function look like, or how to use those functions actually can be modified as classroom activities, right?
Yeah, and not just how to use those functions, but how to use them for like productive things rather than playing games.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm in the field of instructional technology, and in instructional technology, we talk about this myth of the digital native that,
Mm-hmm.
the students grew up with phones and iPads and they can use them so intuitively. At least they can use the interface. But it
Mm-hmm.
turns out that when you ask them to use actual like productivity tools like Word or create a website or, manage their passwords or think about the ethical implications of certain things,
Mm-hmm.
they need to be taught just like anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
just because someone seems comfortable with a computer doesn't mean that they know how to use it responsibly. They do need to be taught those things.
I think that's also the issue related to the accessibility to technology. Because I know, like, not everybody have the same accessibility, right? I think that was one of the, discussion during COVID. Like some people, they may, connected to the internet at home and they have access to computers to have remote class. But there's some family who probably rely on the public access to the internet, right? Maybe they rely on their phone, like they don't have a computer hookup to the internet, but the phone. So there was conversation about the fairness of using technology. I think what you just said touch on the point is that the fairness is not just reflected by whether or not everybody have the same access to the internet or to the technology, but whether or not people have the similar capacity of using technology as a tool to develop personally and professionally.
Yeah. And I mean, it's easy in Atlanta in 2023 to think that everyone has access to high-speed internet, to
Mhm,
a phone, and to a computer, whether it's a laptop or a desktop. And
mhm,
not only is that not true,
mhm.
but then you look at like what the government is doing for infrastructure bills, that there's still
Right,
20% of the country that doesn't have access to high-speed internet,
right, right.
especially rural places. So that access issue is a big equity issue that,
Mhm.
we can't forget about in this discussion.
Is there any suggestion you would like to provide to teachers when you think about this, fairness consideration when they teach in class?
Yeah, and so it's a lot easier to manage the resources that you have access to when you're in class because you're providing those for students. And
Mm-hmm.
so that at least is allowing equity, at least to some extent. Some students may have less familiarity with things than because they don't
Mm-hmm.
have those resources outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
But especially in COVID, we saw a lot of people sending home like booklets or paper copies of things because students didn't have access to computers outside of school. And so just being mindful of those things if you're going to have homework for students, which, may or may not be a thing in pre-K, but just keeping the technology in the class
Mm-hmm.
even is a way of sort of leveling that playing field.
Oh, yeah. So create a fair learning environment within the classroom, as a way to promote the equity and accessibility for all students. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
I've also heard of teachers in like circle time, they'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about what students are doing at home. Like if they're teaching computer science and they're using a programming language, there's some students who have like older siblings who have been teaching them things at home. And so they come in and they look like they're just geniuses with
Mm-hmm.
computer science tools. And the teachers actually will elevate in like a circle time setting that now this person just has 2 years of extra experience than you. Like, imagine how much better you'd be in 2 years at using this tool
Yeah.
if you had someone who is your older sibling teaching you how to use it. And so it's
Mm,
not that, so and so is so much better at computer science. It's that
yeah.
they literally have twice as much experience as you.
Yeah, and also I think it's the purpose behind this, all of this conversation is really, not just provide this mechanical or, or very superficial fairness, right? But we have to think about, are we promoting children's confidence in themselves, or their efficacy in themselves, and they believe themselves like, yes, I'm also good at computer. I'm also good at computational thinking. I'm willing to learn, and if I learn it, I will be successful. Because when I think about my childhood, we will like I was from China, and back then, 20, 30 years ago. I'm so sorry, I'm so old. And when I was a kid, right, there was a huge discrepancy about between like wealth. I mean, higher income, lower income. But luckily back then in China, we didn't have the school district thing. So usually we'll have a really diverse student body. So in our class, just like you said, there will be two or three kids like from rich family, and they already have computer in 90s. It could be very common in the US, but in China it was not the case. Like the computers, and they've been doing, and sometimes they showcasing like they can type Chinese. They can, of course, back then the program was very historical, right? So you probably need to create a program to be able to type Chinese. And like right now in Windows, you just type Chinese however you want. But then seeing somebody who can type Chinese on computer, that person was very privileged because they had access, and then but back then, I did not have this feeling as if I'm inferior to them, or I'm not as good as them, or because I don't have access to computer, I will be bad at computing or using computer. Um, I think that kind of advocacy is really important because technology always evolves over time to the point like right now, you don't need a program to type Chinese. Like you can just talk to Mike, and then computer type by themselves. To this point, uh, but that feeling of yes, I'm good at this. I can do this. When opportunity presented itself, I can do it and can do it better, and I can do what I want. I think that kind of perspective is the essential part of teaching young children. Is whether they emotionally feel good about it and motivated to learn new things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially kids might differ like on how they compare themselves to others. So
Mm,
if, it's great that you weren't daunted by, oh, just because I don't have a computer at home doesn't mean I can't be just as good as this other student who does.
mhm,
But some kids might say, well, so and so is so much better at computers than me.
mhm,
Obvious, like if they have a more like innate intellectual ability
mhm,
mindset where they think you're either born with it or you're not. And a lot of
mhm,
teachers feel that way about computer science too. It's like you're either going to be good at computers or you're not, which is not at all borne out in the research.
mhm. Yeah.
But if you're making those comparisons
Mhm,
and you see so and so is so much better at computers than me,
mhm.
then you might have that low self-efficacy that doesn't allow
Yeah.
you to build that skill over time.
Yeah. So teachers, I think you guys are really important to create this positive feeling of learning, and also reassure children that all of them have this typical have a unique gift that they bring with them, and they will achieve their dreams, and they will do whatever they want, be able to do that in the future. Okay. Well, great conversation for this episode. And so much for our conversation about the ethics and safety issue and privacy and fairness for this episode. So next episode we're gonna continue our conversation about AI. Um, and I really need Doc M help to really understand so many things right now. Like so many things right now everywhere. Even you drive on highway, there's a billboard like AI is this, AI that, AI help you find stock, and help you to probably in the future AI can help you walk your dog. But then I really wanted to know what the concepts AI and how we teachers should prepare ourselves to, participate in this era of AI. So we'll continue our conversation for next episode. All right, we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye.